I can't believe we're almost done with ReZero Season 3, but so much happened this episode. Beatrice came back, Reinhardt became a nuke, Ricardo experienced an average day in London, Capella transformed into every Mushoku Tensei reader's nightmare. And remember that old "who's Rem" joke everyone used to say? Well, the answer is Lye Batenkaitos, because he's Rem now. Also, Reinhardt was not supposed to be in this episode. He literally wasn't in this chapter at all, but I guess not even the story can stop this man from flexing because he has the divine protection of extra screen time. Also, ever since Capella's introduction, my penis has never been more confused. In one frame, she appears to be smash-worthy, and then a second later, she morphs into something you'd find in Made in Abyss. But her character animation and voice actress were the highest S tier I could imagine, even though I think she's by far the most evil Archbishop in ReZero. Remember, these demi-beasts were people once. Capella turns people into things for no reason. Gluttony at least gains something from hurting people, but Capella gains nothing. She just does it for fun because she hates us. I still love her though. I'm gonna miss her, and I'm sad to finally say goodbye. But Beatrice being back does make me feel a bit better. What was she even doing again? Didn't she run out of mana or something after healing everyone? I don't know, you're the YouTuber, so you should know. Anyway, she's using magic again, so something happened. Also, she's absolutely right, Subaru should not be allowed to see Batenkaitos mocking Rem like this. Honestly, this whole episode was basically just the two gluttonies making fun of us and toying with our characters, playing with their food basically. And Beatrice might be able to clutch up, but Julius and Ricardo are kinda throwing. Let's be honest, they need Reinhardt. Reinhardt needs to keep ignoring whatever bullshit the author wrote in this chapter and continue doing whatever the fuck he wants because it's not looking good for Julius and Ricardo and they could use some help. That fight ended with Julius charging up a crazy attack, but we'll have to wait until next week to see whose blood this is. And now for your favorite part of the video. In this week's edition of Crunchyroll ruining ReZero with bad translations, Roy was supposed to say lunar eclipse instead of just eclipse. And for context, I have to tell you a minor spoiler. It doesn't ruin anything though. In fact, it's such a minor spoiler that Drake is listening. Lunar eclipse implies the existence of solar eclipse, which is a completely different ability that hasn't been shown yet, but Crunchyroll ruined that distinction by omitting the word lunar for no reason. It's like they're using Google Translate. Oh, no, Google Translate actually did better than Crunchyroll, and that's just sad. Although, I'll admit that it was funny when they made Al call Felix a femboy. Which reminds me, some of you might have noticed some suspicious dialogue from Al this episode, like where he references being crushed by the building 3 times, even though it only collapsed once. And if you saw my other video, I told you about some of Al's cut dialogue from the start of the Capella fight where he alluded to having an ability similar to Subaru's. Well, this week Al says, "It's debatable whether I could kill you even after 100 deaths," which could have just meant, "Oh, you're so strong, it would take me 100 tries to kill you." That could just be a meaningless expression. If not for the other sentence Al says directly after that in the novel. I can't believe they cut this part because it pretty much confirms what we've all been suspecting. I mean, if Subaru said this exact sentence out loud, Satella would probably kill him. But anyway, Al says, "It's debatable whether I'll be able to kill you even after 100 deaths. To be honest, I'm already pushing 50 at this point." Hello? He just fucking admits it. I'm snitching. Satella! Al just revealed his ability. Again, I still don't think Al is Subaru, or at least I don't want Al to be Subaru. I like to think Subaru's a special character, and I feel like having clones might take away from that. But regardless, I can't deny that Al's ability sounds a lot like Return by Death. He claims to have died 50 times fighting Capella, so what I'm wondering is how many times did he accept her offer? If he really did just die 50 times though, then he handled it pretty well. I mean, Subaru is normally traumatized afterwards, but Al is just like, where are the femboys at? A lot of you anime-onlys are calling this an authority though, and I should remind you that even though it sounds like an authority, we don't know anything about it. Technically, Reinhardt can return by death by his blessing of the Phoenix, so Al's ability could be, yes, an authority, or a divine protection, or even magic, or maybe even a magic item. Maybe his helmet is a metia that gives him extra lives or something. I mean, if Felt has an item that can damage Reinhardt, then anything's possible. So despite Al basically confessing what his ability does, he's still extremely mysterious, and apparently so is Anastasia. Anastasia can't use magic. Her gate has been broken since birth, yet we literally saw her using magic. Yes, Subaru could still bust out a Shamrock every once in a while despite having a fucked up gate, but that's not the case for Anastasia, so Al suspects her of being Capella. Either way, smash. Wouldn't it be funny though if Anastasia was really Krush this whole time, and it was just Krush pretending to be Anastasia, pretending to be Krush? Side note, I found something interesting in the JFK files that was previously redacted. The author of ReZero officially confirmed that Reinhardt did in fact wish for the blessing of the Sword Saint, essentially stealing it from Theresia. However, I think he also said in the past that she still would have died even if she had the blessing. Anyway, Lye's body is covered in scars, and the novel implies that they're the product of abuse rather than just ordinary scars you would get from fighting. There's also potential implications that maybe some of the abuse might have been sexual, and Otto notes that perhaps the reason Lye is so fucked up and crazy is because of his past abuse. He also notes that Lye has an incredible talent for combat and a complete mastery of every martial art, which doesn't make any sense because he's like 12. So Otto finally realizes that the authority of gluttony not only consumes memories, but also imports them into Lye, allowing him to essentially download someone else's combat abilities. For example, let's say Lye wants to be a boxing champion. If he eats Mike Tyson, he gains one-punch knockout power, and if he eats Muhammad Ali, now he gets additional speed and endurance. And then, if he eats Floyd Mayweather, now he can't read. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is that he levels up every time he eats somebody. Honestly, it's kind of a similar concept to solo leveling, except instead of summoning people, he gains their powers directly. But apparently, he hasn't eaten anyone with aura yet, because Lye Batenkaitos is by far the ugliest character in ReZero. Actual negative drip on this kid. Even his brother Roy at least has a decent fit. I mean, he's no Regulus, but he's still exponentially fresher than Lye Batenkaitos. Otsuka did not cook with this character design. Anyway, we can see Lye spamming a stolen ability called the Leaper technique, which is basically Flash from League of Legends, which we even saw used against Rem in Season 2. He also uses Palm of the Fist King, another stolen ability, which is powerful enough to penetrate steel, and the only reason Gaston survived it was due to his mana flow method. The scariest ability Lye has, though, is obviously his authority, which we saw up close this episode. Imagine the horror of all memory of your best friend being erased in real time while you're looking at him. That's gotta be an awful feeling. Roy uses a variety of stolen abilities too, including a scary-looking water magic attack against Ricardo and Julius, who, by the way, are both extremely powerful, like a lot stronger than you probably think. However, they're basically fighting against a fucking army, because imagine how many hundreds, if not thousands of people Roy has eaten. Roy is said to be a bizarre eater who just randomly eats anything that's available, while Batenkaitos is more like a gourmet who only eats the strongest or smartest people he can find. He really wants Otto, but doesn't know his name, and I found it funny how Otto being a nobody basically saved him. So Lye eats a guy named Hicks and then draws out his memory of two people named Mirian and Meili. I checked and I couldn't find any stars or anything about Mirian, but Meili is the name of a character we already know. She's the girl from Season 2 that controls monsters and hung out with Elsa, so it's interesting that Hicks was connected to her. And side note, Season 4 is basically confirmed because, spoiler, Meili's in Season 4, and they just accidentally released her character card for this season when they probably meant to save it. Also, another embarrassing blunder by Crunchyroll. Last season they translated Meili as Meili, which is a weird way to spell it, but at least it sounded the same. Except this episode they randomly changed it to Mary, so they aren't even keeping their mistranslations consistent. In fact, they're getting worse. They obviously don't give a shit about this anime because they're just doing whatever they want, like fucking Reinhardt. Now, because some of you asked for my take on the recent cut content drama, I think Theresia's episode really divided the community into a political spectrum. On the far left, we have a small minority of brain-dead anime-onlys who came here just to see fights and they can't read. They skip ahead in the episode whenever someone's talking, they spell Garfield's name with a D at the end, and they dropped ReZero halfway through Season 2, but they picked it back up after watching an If Story edit on TikTok. These people thought Theresia's backstory had too much filler, and that Theresia didn't deserve an entire episode to herself. The only other anime they've watched is Solo Leveling, funny, and they dropped it after season 2, episode 9. But the other end of the spectrum is just as insane. On the far right, we have doomers, our toxic novel elitists who shit all over the episode every week because they expect the anime to be the novel. And God forbid, if every sentence of every chapter doesn't get a perfect one-to-one adaptation, they will crash out like Regulus and make it their sole purpose in life to ruin the joy of anyone who enjoyed the episode. They are like witch cultists, and the light novel is their gospel. Todd is their favorite character, but only because the anime-onlys don't know who he is. These people, I'm not joking, they complained about the Kurgan vs. Garfield fight because Vincent Chancellor made Kurgan's face more expressive than it was in the novel. They just can't be happy no matter what. But luckily, most ReZero fans are normal, sane moderates who fall somewhere near the center. It's just always the loudest people that have the most extreme opinions. Personally though, I lean towards the doomer side because I'm an Echidna fan, so I fucking hate cut content, but this season the cut content really hasn't been that bad. Every episode exceeded my expectations and I'm extremely impressed with the adaptation we got. However, for once I will admit I'm a bit concerned about the amount of material next episode has to adapt because it's too much for one episode, and hopefully that just means they're saving some of it to adapt at the start of season 4, because this chapter does have a lot of build up for the next arc, but I guess we'll see. I let them cook so far, and they cooked magnificently. This episode was a 10 out of 10, and in terms of pacing, I thought this was the best episode of the season, even though the chapter it adapted wasn't necessarily the most exciting. Basically, zero cut content other than the Al dialogue too, and Capella's amazing transformation scene was obviously the highlight for me. Peak episode, amazing animation, absolute cinema. I think I might delay next week's video by one day, meaning I'll release it the day after the episode airs, just a heads up because I know a lot of you stay up waiting for my video, and thank you for doing that, by the way. I really appreciate all the love you guys are showing these ReZero videos, even though I'm not really a ReZero channel anymore. But that's all for today. Keep talking about ReZero. I'm out for now. Peace.